Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 243 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one anti-government pro-Boogaloo movement in Canada. We're recording on July 6, 2020. As always, I'll be your host. My name is Andrew. Joining me tonight are Gavin and Marty.
We'd love to hear your feedback about the show, so please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. We do all feedback shows, so your feedback is more important now than it ever was. Tell us how we can boogaloo better or worse. A version of the show is available on Stitcher and iTunes and some other places.
All right, and as always, the podcast in whatever stuff is available on the socialist medias. I don't know what we actually post there, but I'm sure there's all kinds of valuable things that people would be interested in seeing. That's on the facebooks.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast and instagrams.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast.
We need your help, obviously. To support the show, visit patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You get a better quality version of the show for just $1 an episode, and fingers crossed, my audio doesn't sound like garbage today. And since we've moved to the 2-show-a-week COVID format, Patreons get early access to the midweek show. Show you're not a communist. Buy a CPP t-shirt for just $19.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com and follow the homepage. That's not right. Go to the homepage and follow the link on the right. It's extremely on the right. You have to keep going to the right in order to find the link.
Okay, before we pause, restart your audio shit. Sorry for the live listeners. This will just take a second. You can edit this out before the recorded podcast, but restart your shit.
The live listeners get to hear all the magic. All of it.
Yeah.
The good and the bad.
How about now?
Still sounded a little bit like it doesn't keep talking.
I don't know. This is dumb, and I just want to boogaloo with my friends.
It sounds more like a bandwidth issue again.
Well, maybe it's a bandwidth issue. Maybe maybe it's all of the RCMP that are listening to the show. It's hard to say.
Yeah, can you guys tell us how our audio sounds? Does it sound different on a government computer, or better or worse?
Yeah. Like I don't know if it's a StreamYard thing when you start hosting StreamYard, because it was okay until you hit record, and then it started like kind of going to shit.
I'm beginning to think that this is all StreamYard related, because we never had these problems on Google Hangouts. We had other problems, but that was just with Google Hangouts, not with the audio.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we can always try Zoom.
Yeah, but I don't want the communist Chinese government listening to me any more than I want my own communist government listening to me.
No, I think they're both listening regardless.
Okay, I don't know. I'm going to cut it out. That's probably plenty long enough. It's time for my favorite segment. That's called What Are We Drinking? It's where I ask you what you're drinking. Gavin, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking 4 Roses and Coke Zero this evening.
Right on. Marty, what are you drinking?
I have the Busch beer again this week.
Good man. I'm drinking Gatorade because I hate everything. Also because I almost died earlier and I feel dehydrated.
Well, yeah.
I'm doing the morning runs, so that gives you a few hours to rehydrate, so that way you can dehydrate yourself with beer later.
Then I'd have to get up at a more unreasonable time. I don't know. There's no good answer to this, but I think this is a good enough terrible segue as anything else. We're going to start doing a partisan challenge. We're going to make a template and you're going to post it on social media. And as we alluded to in the show behind the paywall, so if you're not a Patreon, you haven't heard the midweek show from last week yet, there are going to be several items. And on the Monday show for the next couple of weeks, until the 1st of next month, we're going to talk about those items. The first item is do exercise. The partisan challenge is going to be every day. You're going to have there's 5 activities. You have to complete the 5 activities every day. Doesn't sound super hard yet. The first activity is 45 minutes of exercise every day. So if you want to be like Marty, you can get up early and go for a run. Or if you want to be like me, you can get up early and go to work. And then after your kid goes to sleep, you can go for a run.
And for Benny's benefit, because he was, arguing this when we started planning this whole thing out, stretching is an important part of your exercise. But you don't have to allot a specific time for that. Just 45 minutes of exercise, whatever that is. Just do it. But stretching is good for you.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing is I don't really care what the exercise is. Go for a walk, go for a run, go for a bike ride, go for a swim. I don't really care, but do 45 minutes of actual exercise.
Yeah. All right, hang on a second though. I need clarification around this stretching thing. We agree that stretching is beneficial, but not exercise, right?
Yes.
Well, I guess that depends. If you're stretching very aggressively and it's getting your heart rate up, then sure.
No, if you're stretching aggressively, June is over. It's not that month anymore.
But yeah, otherwise, no. It's something that's good to do before you exercise. But yeah, in of itself is not necessarily exercise.
I'm not even sure I'm going to agree with that. It's good to do before you exercise. I find I don't run as well if I've stretched before, but it's nice to have a little stretch when I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, some people to do it one way or the other. Just don't hurt yourself. If you need to stretch so you don't hurt yourself, then stretch so you don't hurt yourself. If you like to follow there's a lion stretch before it takes down a gazelle thought, then go with that too. The important part is that you do the 45 minutes of exercise. Yeah,
I'm going to say your 45 minutes of exercise should be either strength or actual cardio. But I really don't care what the 45 minutes are, but do 45 minutes.
Yeah.
The news. As we alluded to at the beginning of the show, support for anti-government pro-gun Boogaloo movement growing in Canada. This is on the CBC. Of course, all of the photos in the article are from the US of people open carrying AR-15s. As one would expect.
Yep. Which is weird because at all of the protests in the U.S. where people have been open carrying AR, how much damage and destruction and violence has happened?
I'm going to go with a number approaching 0. A number so close to 0 that it is almost 0.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. I mean, I was pretty sure that was the number, but...
Yeah. Yeah, it's and that's kind of the thing that's annoying about this is they're making these articles the world is falling crashing in because there's a somewhat right-wing group that is organizing on Facebook. Meanwhile, we have Antifa, Black Lives Matter that are actually being destructive, causing millions of dollars worth of damage, and they're not being banned by Facebook, and there's no articles about them.
Yeah, but the Boogaloos are racist.
They are extremely right wing. I like that the article goes to the head of some hate and policy center in Ottawa. Where's that woman's name? Let me find that. Maybe I can't find that. There it is. Ontario Tech University Center on Hate, Bias, and Extremism. So this is their expert that they're quoting in the article. The thing that binds them, regardless of what their orientation may be, is anti-statist position. So we see a real concern, a real reaction to gun legislation that restricts firearms. Well, yeah. Stop trying to take people's guns away, and they won't be mad that you're trying to take their guns away.
Yeah. Also,
I don't see this doesn't seem that complicated.
Quit being a statist and putting your government nose in my business where it doesn't belong.
But
Right?
this is what they have to do is they revert to this person who is the director of a center on hate, bias, and extremism to say that people that are in the Boogaloo content might be far right, might be libertarian. There could be anarchists or left wingers, but they all hate statism. Okay, so stop trying to be a statist. I don't know. I've been a libertarian for a really long time. I'm not sure that I'm a libertarian anymore, but I like to imagine that in a world that wasn't clown world, I would be a libertarian. So get out my flag that says "Don't tread on me" and let me grow my marijuana and marry the gays and have full auto suppressed machine guns, and everything will be okay.
Yeah, as long as you don't tread on me, everything is fine.
I don't know. This all seems silly. So I guess the Hawaiian shirt is 100% racist now as a result of this. That's what we're. Yeah. So I've got my racist shirt that you two can get on Amazon if you follow the link in the show notes, and we get a couple of dollars if you buy something on Amazon after you follow our affiliate link. Yeah. We'll see how long we have that now that we're officially racist.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be if you buy one, you'll get accused of funding hate speech or something.
I don't know. I feel like that's not stretch.
I like that they interviewed the Shooting Edge because they had posted a couple of Boogaloo memes on their social media, their advertising, stuff like that, and the Shooting Edge posted kind of a background on this article on CGN with his quote of the favorite part of the interview is when the reporter asked if he was concerned if he was named in the article due to the possibility of being, quote, canceled by the shooting community over being linked to radical pro-gun groups. So the CBC was concerned that if we name you and associate you as one of these Boogaloo guys, all the other firearms owners are all going to boycott you, correct?
Yeah, totally.
This, if nothing else, is proof that CBC does not understand what's going on, and we should defund them.
Yeah, but if they are interested in talking to the official training company of the Boogaloo, they should reach out to Ragnarok Tactical.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. The show and I have been called racist on the internet for years. I don't care, and I'm not gonna play the whole anti-racism card. I don't care. I judge people based on the quality of their character, not the color that they are, because I don't care as long as you leave me the hell alone. That's all I want. Just leave me alone.
Yeah.
But again, we have our government paid for propagandists putting out entire, this huge article interviewing other people in the community and stuff because people have formed groups on the internet to share funny memes with each other.
Well, let's talk about the groups on the internet, because Facebook recently shut down a bunch of the Boogaloo groups, including the Crazy Canucks Big Canadian Igloo, which is too bad because it wasn't the funniest meme page on Facebook that I was part of, but it was up there.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that as time has gone on, the Boogaloo memes have gotten harder and harder to understand because it's kind of evolved into its own language.
It really kind of has, but I don't know. Some of it is okay, it's a joke on the internet, and J.R. Cox and the shooting center are probably not going to lose money over because people in the shooting community are going to buy guns from the shooting center, and they're going to laugh and think this is funny, or they're going to think it's dumb, and they're going to go to one of the other gun stores. And it's not like they're alone in posting these memes.
Yeah.
Most of them, I think most of them can be seen as obvious satire by someone that looks at this critically. But I also think the CBC is not capable of looking at things critically because they have proven time and again that they don't get the shot. They don't know what's going on. They don't understand.
Well, I mean, they're not paid to be critical. They're paid to echo, whatever the current ruling party says. That's their job. They're not supposed to inform people on things. They're just,
Yeah, but I mean, they called out a particularly concerning meme where someone was talking about Roomba claymores.
Which again, I find that super funny because Roomba Claymore is super funny.
Yeah.
Right. Like
And,
that.
like-
That's clearly a joke. Also funny.
Yeah. Where are we going to
Yeah.
get claymores? Like realistically.
Yeah.
It's not
You
happening.
know how expensive Roombas are? Why
Yeah.
would you waste a Roomba?
It's
Yeah,
true.
Yeah.
Marty could build you a way cheaper robot.
You know how dumb
Betty.
it is to put a claymore on a Roomba? It decides it hits a corner, it turns 180, and it's no longer facing towards enemy.
Yeah. Got to watch out for that.
It sounds fun, but until it goes boom.
Well, even then, I think that, I mean, I look at it as obvious satire, and I find it entertaining because it's like, yeah, okay, Claymore Roomba, that's good, but like nobody's building Claymore Roombas. But if
Yeah.
you are, email the show, feedback at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. I want to be your friend for reasons.
Yeah.
Also,
because I want to
legally, I'm required to say this is a joke.
Because
You don't want to
apparently,
be friends with someone who legally has acquired a claymore.
no, I
if you are
legally, I legally do not want to say on the internet that I want to be friends with someone who has acquired a claymore.
I don't know, man.
Legally, I
There's
don't know.
nothing illegal about owning those big Scottish swords with the basket handle. Those are totally fine.
Does it have to have
Well,
a basket handle? I always thought it was just a clean cross piece.
Well, to officially be a claymore. I mean,
I think a Claymore specifically, yes. But
yeah.
this is part of, like, Gavin just did a great example of this with the like, there's some code shifting that just happened where you were describing a Claymore and you're like, oh yeah, this is obviously a sword, right? When we were clearly just talking about like directed anti-personnel mines.
Yeah.
This is part of the thing with what you were saying earlier with the memes have evolved so fast and it's hard to keep up with the Boogaloo stuff because part of this is, like in this case in the article, where Facebook groups, crazy Facebook groups like Crazy Canucks Big Canadian Igloo. So it's K, like on what group is K? Is it 4chan? It's not Reddit that does that. I don't know. So one of the image sharing meme board things. I'm gonna
There's a
sound like an
Democrat
internet
group
boomer
that's a really
saying
big
that.
fan of using Ks. Is that the one
That's,
you're
Yeah.
referring
that's
to?
true. No,
Yeah.
it's not
But
the one.
they use 3 of them. That's
Well, and in this case, they did as well. Not all in order, but
yeah.
so Facebook shut down 2 pages with a couple hundred followers sharing memes and saying that they don't like things like the Chinese government or Chinese investors buying Canadian farmland, and they don't like the federal government's plan to accept more immigrants when the pandemic is over. And it's like, I don't disagree
I
with
don't-
either of these positions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't like those things either.
I feel like
These sound like not unreasonable things. Also, hey, look, picture of Claymore Roomba.
How do I
Yeah.
vote for this Boogaloo party?
Yeah.
Well,
Also-
you can't vote for the Boogaloo Party. They have they've
Yeah.
changed their names. They're no longer the Boogaloo Boys. They're now the CNN Boys because the internet went through this big defunding thing this past week. Well, deplatforming. Deplatforming is probably more accurate. And they're trying to get the Boogaloo groups removed. So things that refer to the Big Luau or the Big Igloo or the Boogaloo, because they're all sort of being used interchangeably. Because this is all.
How did they crack our code?
Yeah.
I know, right? How did they figure it out? And
So
I guess that's the other
sophisticated.
thing. Is this goes to like some like terrible 80s B movie called Electric Boogaloo 2 something or other. I forget what the whole title of the film was. but,
Break into Electric Boogaloo.
right.
Yeah.
Which is like such
Yeah.
an obscure reference, right?
Yeah. But I have it on good authority.
Only if you're not a part of the breakdancing community.
But I have it on good authority. It's no longer the Boogaloo. It's the fucking Catalina wine mixer.
I enjoyed the fucking Catalina wine mixer meme. I think that was pretty good, but I like how they've gone to
Yeah.
so Facebook as part of this. Facebook has lost millions of dollars in ad revenue recently because companies like Lululemon and Mountain Equipment Co-op and Coca-Cola have all pulled their funding. So Facebook lost like $56 billion in market revenue this quarter as a result of this because the giant corporations that are siding with the anarchists are saying that Facebook's not doing enough to police hate speech and disinformation on their platform. Okay, sure. But we're going to kick a bunch of people off because I guess that's how you get your ad dollars back.
Yeah, I mean, I know. Yeah, there's a
So-
bunch of like groups and even personal pages because I had a couple of friends that posted a lot of Boogaloo memes, and their accounts just got completely zucked.
That's
Like,
funny,
no-
'cause
So
I'm
the
pretty sure
interesting
I
thing
saw-
here.
I'm pretty sure I saw an article come out. I think it was out of the Daily Wire saying that Zuckerberg wasn't going to change their policies, and like that basically the revenue is going to come back. People are gonna keep paying him, so he doesn't have to really change his position on it. But you're saying that they've enacted things anyways. That's interesting.
Well, I think that they have, because we've seen deplatforming, we've seen a bunch of these groups been removed, and we've seen a bunch of people being zucked. So
Yeah,
I'm not
it's not
surprised
necessarily
by this.
them changing their policy. I mean, they've always had a policy to deplatform things that they disagree with. It's just them maybe altering how they enforce that and what falls under that policy as hate speech, right?
Right.
The thing that I
So
like with
now
this,
here's the real interesting part of this, though, is this really could implicate the legal status of Facebook, because if they are curating content, they are no longer a carrier,
But Marty,
and
that's
they are
been-
no longer exempt from any of the sort of speech laws and things like that. Any of the protections that they had as a carrier could be challenged now that they are actively curating their content.
They've been doing that since day one, so nothing's really changed. Like they've been doing that since the beginning of people have started the phrase of being zucked, right? It's just a question
Yes
of whether
and no.
or not.
So there's been certain, like they've been certain getting around with like hate speech and stuff like that. But once they start overstepping that, it started getting into this gray area now. So like for example, like your telephone company has an exemption as a carrier. Like you could get on the phone and make threats to somebody, and you could be charged for making those threats. But like Bell Telephone can't be charged for you making those threats on there, because they're just a carrier. They're just piping through the data. As soon as they're curating the data and they're choosing what content to put up and not, then they become liable for what content is put on there.
Yeah. It's a subtle thing.
So now if somebody posts something on there that upsets someone, not only could they potentially go after the person that posted it, you should be able to go after Facebook itself.
Yeah, because they allowed that to be posted.
Correct.
I don't think it's even they not necessarily they allowed it. They failed to do anything about it because they've shown that they have the ability to curate the content.
Yeah, it's like having a harassment policy at work that everyone knows about, and then when you get a complaint, you just ignore it and don't do anything, right?
Right, which I think is grounds for some sort of other, like you get a human rights complaint at that point, right?
Yeah, which could really
not that you would know anything about that, but
no, nothing.
The other bit that I find entertaining with this is now that they've decided to ban things like Big Igloo and Boogaloo and Big Luau. The change to be the CNN boys, because CNN was like, "Is this hate speech? Must be." And they're like, "Okay, well, we're just going to use your hashtag because all of these major corporations are like funding the hate speech." Because, sorry guys, if you're countercultural political revolutionaries and you're all about Black Lives Matter and Antifa and all of this other assorted nonsense, and literally every globo homo corporation and the government agrees with you, you're not a radical political ideology anymore. You are as mainstream as it gets.
Yeah. Sorry.
Right? Like when every major corporation backs your ideology, you're not radical.
Yeah, I mean, soon you're going to start seeing like Nike come out with like those red bandanas, but instead of like the hammer and sickle on it, it's just going to be a yellow Nike swoosh. Maybe with the hammer and sickle like superimposed behind it, but like, I mean, yeah, it'll
be the Nike swoosh and the sickle.
Yeah,
I mean,
they've commoditized it, right? Like,
past them, man.
Yeah.
Well, I've now said that on the internet. I feel like I should get revenue dollars every time they use that.
I don't think that's how that works.
No. The profits are for the community, Benny. That's how this works.
Darn capitalists.
Yeah.
Yeah. Better than standing in bread lines.
Yeah.
All right, that's enough on that then.
Yeah, I think
I'm assuming that was the first article.
That was
Yeah.
the first article.
Sweet.
Let's go on to articles 2, 3, and 4. They're all related. Armed man arrested on Rideau Hall grounds on an active Canadian Forces member. That's on CTV News. Manitoba. Fingers crossed. Did I say this right? Manitoba Revy shocked over armed man's arrest at Rideau Hall, and Corey Huron had multiple firearms under threat against Trudeau. Court documents allege. So, for those of you that have not been paying attention to the news last week because it was Canada Day and then U.S. holiday and everybody took a long weekend to go to the cottage, July the 2nd, a man stormed the gates of Rideau Hall and was subsequently captured by the police. Kind of a nothing story.
Yeah. Pretty much.
The Governor General, of course, their official residence is Rideau Hall. The Governor General was not in residence at the time. And as we know, the Prime Minister has been living at Rideau Cottage, also not in residence at the time. This happened at like 6 o'clock in the morning on July the 2nd.
They did seem to make a really big deal about Sophie not being in residence, though.
Well, really, she's the one that matters.
Yeah. And we all know that she was with her boyfriend, Mr. Elbow.
Oh, Mr. Elbow. So, Huron. I'm going with Huron. Huron is from northern Manitoba. He was Canadian Forces artilleryman. Now he's a ranger. So that's like the Northern Canadian Forces Reserve militia thing that they do. They wear the red jumpers, bunny hugs. What do you call them? Hoodies?
Hoodies.
Yeah, red hoodies.
Those look pretty dashing.
They are very stylish. I'll give them that. Apparently, he had an M14 rifle, which, if I'm not mistaken, is prohibited under the new law. A revolver, a Mossberg shotgun, and a Dominion Arms shotgun.
An unregistered revolver at that.
Well, it seems to be. So he's managed to rack up 22 charges. He was captured peacefully in less than 2 hours by the RCMP. This was all over the media first thing July the 2nd. Like, it was already in the media and it was immediately over. We already know which 4 guns were involved. We're reasonably sure that he was not licensed for the revolver and the revolver was not registered correctly. We're reasonably certain that he had a prohibited overcapacity magazine for at least 1 firearm. Wouldn't it be nice if we had these kind of details about the shooting that took place in New Brunswick like 4 months ago?
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's still under investigation, so, they can't release that.
But why not?
Probably because it doesn't do them any good to fit the narrative of trying to ban guns. Although this guy now has given them the, added benefit of having the M14 on him and, how scary that is that it had to be prohibited. And here he is with one storming the gates of, the residency of all the people in government with a dangerous M14. And I imagine that's probably the one with the overcapacity magazine.
If I were a betting man, that would be my bet.
You know what they say, when the RCMP doesn't cut it, you got to pull in the military, right? I guess Nova Scotia wasn't big enough red flag for everybody, so they had to do something else.
Well, I mean, at least this time they got to the guy faster than when the guy broke into Chrétien's place.
I think he would have done.
Oh man, I forgot all about that.
So, the RCMP has improved at least a little bit. Like, somehow it still took them several hours to find him on the grounds, but at least he didn't get into the house and get seen by the Prime Minister's wife.
I thought it was like a couple of minutes. I thought it was like less than 20 minutes.
I think they had him identified in 20 minutes, and then it took them another 90 minutes to actually get him arrested, but he ended up like surrendering peacefully.
Yeah,
They
like
don't even mention that there was a standoff or anything. It just took them 90 minutes to arrest him.
Yeah, it sounds.
Yeah, they were talking to him for a while before they arrested him.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he rammed the gates to the place with his truck that was full of MREs, and then, he took off into the Rideau Hall, and then, whether they got to him sort of quickly and talked to him for a while or not, I mean, it took them several hours to arrest him at least.
I'm curious about how, like, when he actually left Manitoba for this, because, like, where he lives in Manitoba is almost Saskatchewan. So the old Google Maps machine tells me that it's like 2,700 kilometers from Bozeman, Manitoba to Ottawa. Like, that is not a short drive. I wonder if this was like he was trying to get there on Canada Day to make a big deal about this, but I also wonder if, like, maybe this guy's not entirely with it. I mean, maybe
was he wearing a diaper?
Well, it's a question. Not a question I can answer, but it's a question.
Yeah, no, we know what guns he used though, Benny. So that's important.
It's so weird that like one of you guys mentioned that we knew what happened. We know what this guy did, right? But Nova Scotia
within hours. Within hours, we knew.
Within hours,
we knew everything about this guy within the day of it happening. Yeah. We knew every place he's ever worked. We know all the guns that he had in his possession. We know the status of the registration of the firearms. We know the status of his license.
Well,
we know where he's from.
Yeah, the individual, like the make and model of them, even, right? Like, not just like, oh, he had a rifle, 2 shotguns, and a revolver. Like, we don't even know that about the Nova Scotia thing. We can assume.
I think we can make a lot of good assumptions about the Nova Scotia thing, but it's a strange contrast that we know this guy's entire life story and everything about the incident the day that it occurred. I mean, admittedly, it was very early in the morning, but so was the Nova Scotia thing. Yeah. The Nova Scotia spree killing also started about midnight-ish and lasted until the following morning, and we still don't have all the information about what took place.
I just
it's the same federal law enforcement agency.
They just had more time to prepare this time, Andrew.
Do you think that's what it is? Do you think that this is a false flag?
To be honest, I don't know. To be my pure honest opinion, I have no idea. But all the points you bring up are legitimate questions. They could have I mean, non-red flag answers, but I think that these are all very big questions that have to be answered, and it doesn't make sense where we stand.
Well,
it does. I don't think this is a black flag. I just think this is, I don't know, someone that was pissed off, didn't know what to do about it, and did a very poorly executed plan. I think that the Nova Scotia one, I think there's a lot of questions around that. I think that the fact that we know this information about this one, that makes sense. Because they got the weapons on scene, so they knew right away what those weapons were. It should be, should be no issue releasing that publicly. I think that the bigger thing is a lot of the silence around the Nova Scotia one. There's a lot of weird oddities around that. Not saying that's a sort of a false flag either, because I don't think it was. I think there's potentially something more to that one, but I don't think that's a false flag either. It's just there's weird things around that one, and then this one it just seemed like incompetence.
Yeah. Although, I mean, you'd leave it up to the papers to already tie it together to the protests that happened to be going on Canada Day, where there was a number of pro-gun advocates there wearing Hawaiian
shirts.
Yeah, wearing Hawaiian shirts nonetheless. So they've already started to tie like the fact that there were pro-gun people protesting the government and being anti-government, and that it was within proximity to this guy and his poor attempt. So clearly they must be related.
This guy's poor attempt, though. I mean, if you want to talk about people that are like doing the government's bidding, this guy's a ranger and former Royal Artillery. Like, you're pretty much the government at that point.
I don't know. as an infantryman myself, we never really had a high opinion of those in artillery. Like they're not even tank guys, and they have low standards.
Yeah, but I mean,
who
are you going to
arms
call?
is combat arms, man.
Who are you going to call when you need a building blown up?
The Air Force.
Fair.
Yeah,
but I mean, they're going to have to get out of their hotel to go do that.
Even that's not artillery.
I don't know. Aside from picking on this guy's particular trade in the military,
Sorry,
like if he's got a grievance with the government.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like he seems pretty like with the program. If he was an artilleryman, now he's volunteering as a ranger.
Yeah, because
he seems mad that his business has like been affected by COVID because he's got posts about his business. So he operated Grindhouse Fine Foods and he was making apparently really good sausages according to the internet. But again, CBC not knowing the shot, they found the business Facebook page and he posted a bunch of Boogaloo memes and a bunch of like anti-COVID isolation lockdown memes. And the one that he posted right before he got to Rideau Hall, like the morning of, he posts a thing that says that once the lockdown's over, they're having a big barbecue. For more details, Google Event 21. And again, like the CBC not knowing the shot, they're like, Event 21 is a conspiracy theory about worldwide pandemics that are funded by Bill Gates and the whatever organization he's funding now. I can't remember is it the Gates Foundation?
Yes, but I'm pretty sure he also funds the Boogaloo, so we should defund him.
Well, I think we should, but like Event 201 is not a conspiracy theory. Event 201 is an actual thing that happened that you can like listen to the 3-hour recording of them doing a tabletop war game where they.
It's all fake, Andrew. It's all fake, just like the moon landing. None of it happened.
Well, that makes sense. Why would the flag be blowing if they were on the moon? They were clearly outside.
Yeah.
Does anybody find it weird that there's not like a Tika or a Lee Enfield as one of the 4 weapons?
Yeah, I mean, one would think he would have had one of those readily available, given his volunteer position.
Well, I mean, I'm not 100% sure how the Rangers work, but I'm pretty sure they take those rifles home with them.
Do they? I don't know. I
thought that they did.
I'm like 95% sure that they get issued those and they keep them in their possession. They don't have to like bring them in and out of the armory every time they get called out.
The whole point of their force is to be ready to defend the North.
Like and also shoot polar bears.
Yeah, at a moment's
the Rangers shoot a lot of polar bears.
Yeah, that's defending the North. There's nothing else out there. But like that's their job. Like they're there to protect the population in the northern parts of the country, and yeah, they'd be dumb to have to like go to the armory, which may be miles from where they are, to go get a rifle to go out to shoot a polar bear.
Yeah, not that it really makes any difference. It just kind of struck me off.
Yeah. I for sure thought he would have had his issued firearm with him, like no question, or at least like
Tikas are way nicer than any of the other firearms he brought with him.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, the Tikas are gorgeous. I mean, even like the Enfield, like, I mean, they swapped them all out for the Tikas. So like,
have they been issued yet?
Yes.
Yeah, the new Tikas are out.
Yeah, they are gorgeous.
I don't think that they're. I think it's like a gradual rollout over a few years. I don't know if everybody's gotten them replaced yet.
That's generally how they do it.
But yeah, I was surprised too that he didn't have either of those on him and opted for an M14 instead.
Semi-auto.
I don't know, man. This is kind of maybe, but this is kind of weird and poorly executed. I don't know if this is maybe.
That's the thing. It's like you would think. Okay, and it's weird to be like talking about, the better way to do this crime that makes no sense. Like,
so
but
this is for entertainment and theoretical. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But like you would think that like somewhere like that's not a short drive.
Yeah.
Like
30
you
hours,
have
give or take, plus P breaks.
Hours in the vehicle. You'd think that somewhere in that 30 hours, like, maybe you turn the podcast off and be like,
yeah,
maybe I should think about this.
Yeah. I should get to step
Plan
2
war?
after I ram the gate. Like, that's like, did he have
There
all?
was no.
It seems really poorly executed, and that's kind of like, is it a false flag? Is it just some guy that's unhinged and like just didn't know what to do with his
I
energy?
think
so he
it's just-
drove to Ottawa.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Are they
think
going to play this off as a all at once, one more time?
yeah.
Yeah, let's all talk again at the same time. I think honestly, in terms of our society, this is the thing that's been sort of a blessing, is that obviously anybody that attempts something like this is usually crazy and incompetent. And I think it's been, we've been very lucky that nobody that's actually competent in sort of like handling of firearms has attempted something like this, because firearms owners are the safest and most law-abiding people.
Yeah, I mean, my guess, it's this guy just, for whatever reasons, just broke down. So, like, with the whole lockdown in his business, and just like, he he lost it, right?
Well, and that's the thing that I want to see.
If
If they play this out.
Yeah.
If they go through this as he goes to court, because he goes to court in like 17 days or something. Like he's in court this month in July. I'm curious to see if they do some sort of like PTSD, criminal insanity type thing, like he didn't know what he was doing, or he has some sort of PTSD that's service related, and they blame this on his military service. So he's just painted as he's another one of those crazy veterans. Can't be giving them guns. Well, except when we like send them to Afghanistan to go and die for government and corporate interests. Then they can have machine guns and tanks and artillery pieces, but like not when they're in Canada. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
But is it? Because like looking at this timeline, he shows up at 9:29, right? Abandons his truck maybe 100 yards from the gate. I don't know what the scale is here. Sits out in some bushes for 3 minutes. Is discovered by the RCMP. What is that? 5 minutes later. Tried to speak to him. He actually responds 10 minutes after they see him, and then an hour and a half later, he's arrested. It didn't sound like he had a plan. He showed up with this stuff, but like to do what?
Well, apparently he had a note as well. We don't know what's in that note yet, though.
I highly doubt
we know a little bit about what's in the note, because he has been charged with uttering death threats.
I mean, my guess is that it said, "Dear JT, take off, eh?"
But isn't he at the cottage?
He's
He
never go
lives
cottage.
at the cottage, but he was not home.
Or do you mean he had his cottage in Quebec, the other cottage?
Right. So I don't. Does the prime minister know where he is?
I mean,
No,
no.
he
As
just
long as
was
someone
worried
brings
about
him
which
his
socks.
socks out, yeah, it's okay.
I wonder if he could
I mean,
pass a sobriety test.
I'm curious whether this guy actually had all 4 of those firearms on him at that time, because it's a little strange to be carrying like a rifle and 2 shotguns.
2 random
Like,
shotguns. Yeah.
like that's not easy to carry about you, like, especially if you're trying to be stealthy and have a plan.
There was no plan.
I feel like there was no plan. I feel like this guy didn't have a good idea. Like reading the article and not having.
He lost it. He lost.
Right.
Yeah, like
I'm kind of with Marty on that. I think he just lost his stuff and is like, well, I don't know what to do. I'm working in the grocery store.
Yeah,
I'm going to take my guns and go to Ottawa.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give that prime minister a piece of my mind and a clean pair of socks.
Yeah.
And this could have just been like a legit suicide attempt.
Yeah. Could have been. Suicide.
So like
I think we're going to see
he might have had no intention to do anything, but assumed that he would get lit up as soon as he got through the gate.
Yeah.
There are easier ways to do it, though.
Yeah, but suicide by cop is a popular one.
No, I'm saying there's easier ways of being shot by police rather than
Well,
trying
yeah,
to
but
hours of
but
breathing.
there's not
make
a lot less. Right. That's the thing, is if you're going to make a statement like this, makes a statement like this guy like crashed the official residence of the government.
Yeah,
and then it was like armed. Like, I mean, if you're going to make a statement like this, this is a lot more than like the local RCMP detachment shot some drunk that works in the grocery store. Like,
yeah,
the RCMP Capital Region. I forget what INEST group they're part of. It's the National Detachment. I forget what their group is in Ottawa, but let's like the RCMP police at the Capitol arrested a man today breaking into the Prime Minister's residence, and we found he had a lot of guns, and also we deployed the bomb squad. Like, that sounds a lot more like it's a lot more inflammatory.
And especially if this guy sees our current government as the reasoning behind the fall of the West over the last 6 years.
Yeah.
Which
I mean,
there is,
not that he would be
probably
wrong.
a fair bit of blame could be put on our current government for that exact reason. So, if his goal is to commit suicide and, maybe
Make a message.
and he's suicidal because of the way he sees it because of them, I can see him going, well, I'm going out and I want to, maybe I can take some of them with me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It certainly made a statement. I mean,
I don't know. That's my theory. I just think this guy lost it.
also, other fun things that we've learned: when the Prime Minister is not in residence, Rideau Hall grounds are not particularly well guarded or patrolled by the RCMP. So you have several minutes, if you can get past the gate, to do whatever you want before they respond. We'll see if that holds true the next time, because this is not the first time that somebody has tried to do something with the government, right? We had crazy guy with cowboy lever gun break into the House of Commons and get shot by the Sergeant at Arms, who is a retired peace officer. But I would still like to know how he had a pistol in his desk at work, because I have questions.
Yeah.
We had the guy that did the whole stabby shooty Nathan Cirillo thing.
Yeah.
We had a guy break into Kretchen's house. That was 20 years ago?
Yeah, like
That was,
95, I
that was
think.
a while back.
Before I was paying attention to politics.
But like, it seems to me there was a Canadian soldier in around 2000 that broke into the parliament buildings in Quebec, like the provincial parliament in Quebec. They have a different name for it. The National Assembly of Quebec. There was a Canadian Forces member. Yeah, well, the National Assembly building in Quebec. There was a Canadian Forces member that broke in there with, I think he stole Browning high powers. I think he stole Canadian Forces handguns and was like shooting up the. No, I take that back. I think it was a submachine gun, and he was shooting up the National Assembly.
Did he hit anybody?
No, some MP actually, or MPP, I guess, whatever they call them in French, La MPP, was a veteran and like talked the guy down, and he was subsequently arrested.
Well, if he didn't hit anybody, he was probably the high powers.
But it seems to me like in the last 20 years, there's a half dozen occurrences where some armed individual has broken into like a federal, or I guess I shouldn't say federal, but into like a significant government establishment and managed to do whatever they want for quite a length of time before the RCMP has managed to respond appropriately.
Yeah. So, I mean, for all you Antifa guys listening, there's your chance to go and tear down some statues and or deface them. Highly recommend you go do it.
Yeah. And if you happen to have a Roomba Claymore,
Don't mention our
it
names.
could be an opportune place to deploy.
Just whatever you do, don't wear a Hawaiian shirt because they will think you're racist and on the right. So the black hoodie and the red face mask is what you want to wear so that everyone clearly knows you're on the left. It's important that you guys get the credit that's due.
Well, speaking about credit, let's look at teachers for a minute. We're gonna round the show out on the teachers thing. Trudeau is facing his sixth. I think we're up to sixth ethics violation. So 2 articles, one on CBC, teachers to be paid $12,000 to recruit and manage students under government program with We Charity. And on Spencer Fernando, Trudeau's charity scandal, latest evidence he thinks rules don't apply to him. Yeah. So We Charity, for background, We Charity is how Idris Elba got his girlfriend sick with the COVID. So she was at, Sophie Trudeau was at I don't think it's a fundraiser, at a live event where she was performing. I'm not sure. The beginning of
March. She was regaling everyone with her fabulous singing voice.
Could be.
Or her yoga moves. I can't remember which.
This was in London, and it's like a concert live event type thing. So she's in an arena giving a speech and carrying on and whatever, and then we assume had relations with Mr. Elbow and got sick, and then they returned to Canada, and that was when Trudeau went into the whole self-isolation thing. Sophie also hosts a podcast that is part of the We Charity group. She has like a mental health podcast that she does once a week. The Trudeau, like the entire Trudeau family has spent years volunteering for this charity. And somehow they've been awarded the contracts to oversee a federal government program to get students summer jobs working at nonprofits.
Well, I mean, they were the only company that could do this, right?
It's a government program run by the government.
So you're saying that nobody could do this effectively?
Yes.
I mean, also yes. So the students have the opportunity with the summer program. They can make between $1,000 and $5,000, depending on how many hours they work, at a nonprofit organization. We Charity is also recruiting teachers who can make up to $12,000 for running these groups through the summer. And it's slightly different whether they're rural or urban. It's either 55 students or 75 to 100 students, depending on where the group leader, aka teacher, is. But then they get $12,000 for running this. So the government's taking a bunch of money and giving it to a charity to give it to a bunch of teachers to organize a bunch of students to work at nonprofits. I mean, I'm not saying I understand the government, but I think I understand why the F-35 costs so much.
It's a government contract at 40%.
Well, I mean, having done government contracts, I kind of understand that because working with the government is absolutely horrible. So yeah, adding 40% is not a bad rule of thumb.
Yeah.
But why is the government giving We Charities, like, I'm trying to find the number because it's like hundreds of millions of dollars that they're giving, and there was a cap on how many. $900 million program, and We Charity is not supposed to make any money off of it, but the charities are only getting like a few $1,000s a piece, and the students are getting $5,000 a piece, and then the teachers are getting $12,000 a piece, and there's a cap, and it's like 20,000 students. Now, I'm no mathematician, but that doesn't seem to add up to $900 million to me.
The problem with this is that the people in government aren't mathematicians either, and they can't add. So,
or they are, and Trudeau will pay us $200 and be done.
Well, I mean, if he keeps having to pay these $200 fines, he's going to be broke in like a millennium.
I don't know, man. The whole thing just seems like incredibly irresponsible to me.
If you're paying people for work, that's not volunteering. That's you just paying them less than the minimum wage.
Well, and that's sort of how they frame this, because it's I forget the name of the program. It's the Summer Student Grant, I think is the right name for it. The Canada Student Service Grant, pardon me. But if it's for 20,000 students, which I think is the right number, and they get the maximum amount, and that's $5,000, isn't that $100 million? I'm pretty sure that's how math works. So the other $800 million is going into effectively overhead?
Teachers? How much?
Well, I don't know how many teacher positions there are, but like they get 12,000 a pop.
Maximum one teacher per 75 to 100 students.
So let's just say 75 students, and it probably still doesn't add up.
Yeah.
So that's 267 teachers. So that's 3.2 million.
All right, so we're like somewhere around halfway.
I don't even think we're halfway yet. So how is We Charity not making any profit on this? If like we can do some napkin math here that says like we can figure out how they're spending like $250,000, $500 million on this program, on this $900 million program, and We Charity is not supposed to make any profit off of it. Where's the rest of the money, guys?
So one of the things that I've learned over the years about not for profits, if the company doesn't declare a profit, it's considered not for profit. So if the people at the top are paid a percentage and not a dollar figure, you could just dole out all the money and wages to people and still maintain your status as a not-for-profit, because you can have paid positions in your not-for-profit, but the entity itself can't make money.
No, I understand that. I
So
think
that's
it's a good thing to
probably
clarify that,
exactly
'cause
what's happening.
a lot of
how
people
much
probably
is,
don't understand the Corporations Act. And
How
Yeah.
much is Mr. Elbow and Sophie getting from We Charity during the summer? I think would be an
too
appropriate
much.
question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I assume that she's getting 6+ inches at least out of this.
I mean, I wouldn't want to assume, but I would think. The Trudeaus do say that they have never received any honorarium for their work with We Charity, although some of Idris Elba's girlfriend's travel has been covered.
Yeah, and imagine, like, given that it's like all of their friends and family and lackeys that are in charge of this whole thing, that like they have profited off of it and probably get a kickback.
So what's the
Of some
definition
kind,
of receiving anything for this work? So I do a day's work for Andrew, and that gives Andrew $100 in his pocket. He then gives $100 to Gavin, who then gives me $100. So I didn't get anything for working for Andrew, but I just got a present from Gavin.
Well,
Exactly.
without the numbers, I mean, we says they didn't give any honorariums, but you're right. That doesn't mean that there weren't gifts and other things given, and who knows what the travel costs for Sophie's were actually, like, what those costs really were.
Yeah.
I don't know. The whole thing has been referred to the ethics commissioner, who I'm sure the prime minister will be happy to meet with again. But this is his sixth ethics violation.
The fact that it had to go to the ethics commissioner at this point just shows that, like, he hasn't learned his lesson and will continue to keep doing what it is that he wants to do. Like, this is not the first time he's gotten in trouble for stupid things like this. Like, he just doesn't care.
But he
And
and
that's-
he would, and he
I
would
think-
stay back. Canada doesn't care, so who cares? Canadians expect me to be responsible and apologize for my poor behavior, and I'm sorry, and I'm going to do it again next week, and I'll apologize again next week, and
Yeah,
I'll be
but,
sorry then.
Like, he
too.
gets found guilty, he pays his fine, and it goes away. Like, okay, I get it.
It's important to point out for people that are new to the show, because I know we've covered this a bunch, but it's a $200 fine if you're an MP that commits an ethics violation.
which, like, fine.
It's
If
a
you want to have it be a
$200
slap on the
fine.
wrist, then fine.
Well,
But
no.
there should be
No,
if you
it needs to
get
be a
X number of
meaningful-
slaps on the wrist, you should just
It
have to
needs
lose
to
your
be a
position,
meaningful
right? Like,
fine.
well, yeah,
Like-
but like
This isn't even a day's pay.
there should be a maximum number of these things or something. If they want to have the
One.
penalty,
Precisely one.
yeah, like everyone's allowed a mistake. After that, you make another one, especially like for the same damn thing, you get the boot. Like it. I mean, name one other prime minister that's had this many ethics violations.
I think we looked this up previously on the show,
Yeah.
and like the record was 2.
Yeah,
Was he a liberal?
No, it can't be.
yeah.
No, I don't think any other
I
prime
think
minister has even been investigated by the ethics commissioner prior to Trudeau, because this only came into place during the end of the Harper government. This didn't
Maybe it was
exist
just
before
maybe it
Trudeau.
was just an MP. It wasn't a. I'm sure we looked this up before, and I think the previous record was 2 for the same MP.
Yeah, I'm pretty
like-
certain. I'm pretty certain that it's like the whole concept of the ethics commission. That I think it only came in towards the end of Harper's tenure. So I think it kind of
Fair.
Trudeau's
So,
the first-
They only
I
say
mean,
that $200.
So that being said,
I
then
think
so
it's
even if it
250,
was
but
only
yes.
like the devil himself, Stephen Harper, didn't get an ethics commission like violation or even an investigation. I mean, the man
Well,
is
I think he also
literally
put
Hitler.
the ethics commissioner into his position. I think Harper was the guy that was like,
Oh, so
we should make sure people are
yeah.
ethical in government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in the wrong business, boy.
Well, that's kind of the thing. And the mainstream media is not even touching this. I mean, I know I quoted in a CBC article at the beginning of this, but like their thing is like, this is great. There's so many opportunities for students, and also Trudeau has apologized for impropriety around this, and they're going to do better.
When you watch, like, you look at the progression as the articles came out, and it was like, oh, We Charity steps away from government program. And then it was like, you know, like there was nobody coming right out and stating all of this all at once. It was like a gradual thing throughout the day that like each media release had more and more information that got shadier and shadier, but none of them had like the whole story.
No, and I think that's because of the whole $600 million that the Trudeau government used to buy the mainstream media. Because
absolutely,
I mean, sorry guys, we have the Lugan press now. That's how this works. They are bought and paid for propaganda pieces by the Liberal government. What's the number that we're giving the CBC? We're giving them like 30 million taxpayer dollars every day to keep operating, something obscene like that.
I don't know.
Because their ad revenue doesn't generate enough for them.
More than what I would have thought, but. So what's interesting is I'm looking at the financials for this their audited financials for this We Charity. So for 2018, their total revenue is $49 million, of which their expenses were $57.9 million. So even his charity is running a massive deficit.
Well, that's how you show success. So.
Well, that was another thing that they talked about in some of the articles, was that We Charity really needed this cash infusion to continue operating because they were not in a good financial position, and they were going to have to start laying their staff off due to COVID.
Right. So their entire revenue was less than $50 million annually. They spent over the course of 2018. In 2018, they spent over $7 million renovating their offices in Toronto, and $3 million the year before.
Oh, well, that's super important,
according to their audited financials. So, like 20% of their annual revenue is going into fixing up their offices in Toronto.
Further proof that they should not be running this government program.
But so like this is probably exactly where like the gifts and everything are, because it's like, okay, well, we'll put down that we bought a new office chair, but really it's going to go to like Jim's place because he needed a new, you know, sofa set or something in his second apartment. Right? Like,
oh, I'm sure the whole thing is super shady. I don't trust this as far as I can throw it. This is super shady. Also, Sophie's podcast, awful.
Oh, you listened?
Absolutely terrible. I listened to like 5 minutes of one episode, and it was. I don't want to say it was like listening to Slamfire, but I mean it was really bad.
Ooh, shots fired! Shots fired.
It wasn't intentional. It was a slam fire. What did she talk about on her podcast? Sorry.
It's like mental health and well-being, being present and giving thanks, and I don't know, a lot of froofy granola stuff that I was like, yeah, no, I'm done. That's 5 minutes of my day I'm not getting back.
Does it have a segment
leading the blind?
Yeah. Is there a segment though on what she did in mental health this week?
I don't know. I honestly listened to 5 minutes of one episode and I was like, yeah, no, can't do this. Idris Elba's girlfriend, not good at podcasting.
Well, I guess she's got other talents that we'll never find out about.
Oh, wow. I hope we don't find about them.
Let me send you an OnlyFans link later.
I don't know what that is, but it doesn't sound clean.
It's not. That's the joke. I think we should chill and do petitions.
So they also,
if you want,
they also spent $8 million on office payroll and travel. So now we're at 50% of their budget before they've done 50% of their revenue before they've done anything. That's just keeping the lights on.
Sounds like a quality business. I mean, like, I don't know how you guys run your businesses, but at my business, I can't spend money that I don't have.
Well, that's the beauty of being government. Money printer.
I don't know.
Go
Like,
brr.
well, I guess my money printer doesn't go burr as good as the government's does, I guess, because like I have a lot of problems if I spend more money than I have in my bank account, because then when I go to pay vendors and things, the checks don't clear, and then they
Yeah.
stop giving me things to sell.
Well, and if you don't draw or show a profit for X number of years, I mean, the CRA is going to be down your throat going.
Oh, don't worry. The CRA is very concerned
like-
about what I'm doing.
And unfortunately, like their program expenses are not broken out at all. So they just have like 3 line items.
Nice.
Asia, 1.3 million. Africa, 12.3 million. Latin America, 5.9 million.
I now know why
Uh,
Trudeau thinks the one like business owners are the 1%, and it's just a tax shelter because
That's what he uses them for.
if nonprofits, are hugely profitable for people who own them and run them. So imagine how much more money you're making if you're actually declaring to the government that you're making money.
Yeah.
Andrew, I think we
What
need
a
to start
total dumb show.
Ragnarok needs to start a charity. It's going to be
Oh,
Ragnarok.
don't worry. So, not that I
Yeah.
want to get into the detail on this, and we should wrap it up. But long term, I would actually like to have a nonprofit that I have a controlling interest in, so that the profit from my business can be given to my not for profit, so that I can spend money on social programs that I find personally agreeable. Because
Like
this is like a
Sites for
tax
Night.
shelter with no programs that I find personally agreeable. Because then I have like a
It's
tax
ruthless
shelter within a
giant
tax
sport.
shelter. Yeah, Claymore's for everyone. Claymore's for kids. Now the alliteration doesn't quite work. I guess you could spell the Claymore with a K.
Well, yeah,
Oh, you got to watch that then, because.
2
That's okay,
Ks
it's
is
only
fine.
two.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, you're good, yeah. You're only 2/3 racist. It's okay.
No,
Well,
spell
that's
them both with C's.
well, no one's gonna know what a kid is if you spell it with a C.
Yeah.
Claymore's for SIDS? What?
No, long term, if my business ever does become profitable enough that I like have to find a new and exciting way to shelter my tax dollars, I would very much like to have a charity that I have a controlling stake in, so that I can take the profit from my real business, give it to my tax shelter's tax shelter, and then distribute it as I see fit. I'm not even kidding, Benny. I know you're laughing, but I mean, like, this is like a super like.
Oh, yeah.
This is a totally above board thing. Like, this is how the Gates Foundation runs. He takes all of his money and puts it in the Gates Foundation, and they can do whatever they want with it without government interference.
Yep.
So,
It's super high agency tax sheltering is what it is.
yeah, you need to get an extra accountant to do this one.
Yeah.
Not one of those
if
shitty
you want to
Canadian
help,
ones either. Like they got to be living on an island somewhere. That's
oh yeah, nice island or Switzerland.
Yeah.
If you want an official Big Luau shirt to show that you're only, what did we decide that I was 66% racist? Is that the
Yeah.
number we're going with now?
0.6 repeated. Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to show that you're racist like me, you get your official Big Luau shirt, or you, I guess you have to follow the CNN boys on social media now because the Boogaloo boys are no more.
Yeah. Get your tickets for the Catalina wine mixer.
It's the fucking Catalina wine mixer.
Yeah.
Follow the
Your
link in
ticket
Amazon.
is a Hawaiian shirt.
If you are getting a Big Luau shirt, get the official Big Luau shirts that we're using from Amazon because they're $20 and they're quite good. I mean, they're not Tim's Good t-shirts quite good, but they're probably a fire hazard.
Well, maybe like a melt hazard would be a better way of putting it.
I stand by what I said. Also, go sign petitions. You know the deal. Links are in the show notes. 2574 are cracked 250,000 signatures this week.
Yeah, I'd like to say I'm
Taking
proud
some
of you all,
doing,
but
Oh no, wait. I take that
did it
back.
actually, or did it crack 225?
I did that. 225. I did that thing with math again. 225. That's more than once that's happened. 225 this week. So still the most signed petition. That's a thing.
yeah.
Also, go sign the other petitions. Also, get everybody you know to sign the petitions. Where can everybody find you on the internet, Gavin?
The best place to find me on the internet is on the grams at Urbix_GTA, just like it says in the little box over here. There.
Over here. Oh, wow, that is backwards. All right, over here.
Yeah, I know, that's.
All right, Marty, where can everybody find your little box on the internet?
You can find me in person at the fucking Catalina wine mixer.
You'll be one of the white guys in Hawaiian shirts, I take it?
I mean,
Allegedly.
good luck spotting, picking out which one. Oh, the white guy in the Hawaiian shirt, eh? That'll narrow it down.
Fair enough. Benny, where can everybody find you on the internet?
BennyLewis.ca. Come buy speed loaders.
All right. You can find me at Ragnarok Tactical. If you listen to the show this long, you deserve a discount. Use discount code Patriot at checkout. We've got more body armor in stock, and also I got some other things. So plate carriers and assorted tactical doodads. But get your body armor while we've got it.
Pre-order
Now's a
is
good
live.
time to buy body armor.
And the pre-order is live, right, Andrew?
Yeah, pre-order.
We're not going to talk about pre-order on the show. Go buy body armor. It's good for you. Better than the alternative. I also have to apologize to Rod Giltaka. He said he didn't know where the Catalina wine mixer would be, so he would not be able to join the show. And for all of our listeners out there in podcast land, I would like to remind you that you are the true North, strong and free.